It is time to check in on that huge renovation contractor Mike Lawrance has been working on that we've been following since the beginning. A home full of potential on a street with loads of character. Originally a 3-unit rental property, it's now being reimagined into a gorgeous single-family home. But there has been a major challenge that could complicate the timeline. Let's take a look.
Welcome back to the project. I'm sure you're wondering how things have been going over the last few weeks, and it's been very productive, but we've had a few challenges along the way as well. From double drywall on top of lath and plaster to some rotten water issues, nothing we can't handle, but some of the engineering specifications are a little over the top, and some of the steel beams that are going in are massive. And today, we brought a crane on site to assist us with that process. And I want to take you out back and show you how it's really done. Behind me is a spider crane from Elite Rental. It has a maximum capacity of 4 tons. And today, most of the beams were lifting between 800 and 1,200 pounds, so it's just the right size to be able to maneuver everything up to the 2nd and 3rd floors. Whenever we're maneuvering steel over 1,000 pounds, it's much easier using a crane than trying to manhandle a beam like this into a house. Especially when it's bearing from side to side within the existing home, there's almost no other way to get it into place safely without the use of a crane. As you can see where I'm standing, we've created 2 beam pockets on either side of the house that have been filled in with concrete on top of the load-bearing brick. That weight of the beam gets transferred all the way down to the ground. By installing this beam, it's picking up the floor load and the roof load above. There's another beam the same size that goes in right below this beam. This is one of the steps involved in installing all of the steel to achieve that open floor plan. The design on this house in the interior was to create an open concept. And open concept living is a bit of a buzzword these days, but the reality is a lot of people enjoy having that wide open space throughout the main floor and much larger master bedrooms. But the problem with that is all those old interior walls in these turn-of-the-century homes have to be picked up or transferred the weight from the roof and from those floor systems down to the foundation. To do that, clever engineering and a lot of ingenuity is involved. This particular house required multiple steel beams throughout to pick up those loads.
Ooh, that crane is a big deal. Now that definitely must have slowed you down. What are the next stages of the project, Mike?
Well, initial stages after getting the beams in is actually installing the rest of the structural components throughout the house. As soon as that's done, we need to button up the back of this thing and get the exterior framing in as quickly as possible so the house is watertight before the snow flies.
Okay, now are you planning on doing exterior work throughout the winter?
As much as we try to not schedule that way, it's inevitable that we end up doing a little bit of exterior work in the winter. Now, masonry work or stucco work, as long as it's 4 degrees as a minimum overnight, there's no problem doing that type of work because the mortar still sets up. However, we can also tarp and heat underneath those tarps to do those components.
Okay, you're going to need a bigger coat and you're going to need some mittens, my friend. Let me ask you this. Has COVID made this renovation more challenging?
You know, I think COVID's made everything more challenging, but we've been lucky in the sense that the projects we typically work on are larger homes, so we can work on different floors. We've staggered our lunch breaks and coffee time. We work on different floors from the subcontractors when they're on site. So we've managed to implement a few things that have made it safer and also to be able to, you know, carry on at the same pace that we're used to. So we've been able to stick handle our way through this fairly well.
Now, it's a huge project. So how many people are typically involved in a project of this size?
Well, in the immediate size, there's 3 of our crew on site, a supervisor and carpenters. You know, collectively speaking, there's hundreds of people involved at some point or another during the course of this project. So it is a significant involvement.
Yeah, that is a big production. Now, you've done a ton of renovations in your career. How does this rate for you with the speed bumps that you've already experienced? Is this typical?
It is. You know, any project we've ever taken on, there's always going to be little unknowns. So what I try to do is proactively plan for that with a contingency in the overall budget. And depending on the size of the project and the type of home, that contingency can vary on how much and what percentage. This particular project and some of the hiccups that we've run into, we're well within the kind of the normal range. And I think we'll be fine. You know, if we begin to exceed the critical path or timeline on the project, we put in overtime and work weekends to get everything back in line. It's the overall timeline of the project that concerns me the most, because there's always a deadline in mind at the end of the day.
Okay, and I remember when we first started covering this reno, I think you told us how long the whole thing was going to take. Has that changed at all, and can you update us on when the whole thing is going to be over, that you think?
The overall duration is 10 months, and I'm not going to allow that to change. We will hit that target come hell or high water. But I think there will be a little bit of heat going on in the dead of winter to make sure that we can keep working on the coldest days.
Thank you, Mike. Very much looking forward to it, and I love following the whole process. It is